Hello, my name is Sinister Skater and welcome to the channel. I'm going to be walking you through the Crossbow in Call of Duty Modern Warfare and sharing everything you need to know about it. Its stats, what it's good for, what it's not good for, some tips to do well with it, and I got 3 loadouts that should be the only loadouts that you'll ever need to use with the Crossbow at the very end of this video. I maxed out the Crossbow and got gold with it over this past weekend, so I pretty much know everything that you need to know about it. There will be some gold gameplay sprinkled throughout this video in addition to the little showcase you're seeing at the beginning of this video. But let's get started with the very first thing you need to know about the Crossbow if you don't know already is how you unlock it. Very quickly, if you haven't unlocked this yet, you can go to your Create a Crest loadouts, go to the Marksman tab, you'll see the Crossbow and there is a challenge tracker for it there. What you have to do is get 5 kills with a Marksman rifle with a reflex sight in 25 games. It's pretty straightforward and a bit of a grind. Just make sure you have a sight on that has reflex in its name, like the GI mini reflex, and you'll be good to go. Now, overall, is the Crossbow a good weapon? And to that, I would have to say, yes, it's good. It's a specialty weapon with little niches that allow you to use it in a variety of different ways. It's viable as a primary weapon. It's very fun to use as a primary weapon. I love using it as a primary, but I'd say don't think of the Crossbow as a primary. Think of it as a utility weapon, even though all the gameplay you're probably seeing says otherwise. Stat-wise, without a special bolt, the Crossbow can one-shot from the waist up. If you hit the legs or the feet, it will take 2 shots to kill, which is very workable. It's not frustrating like the World War II Crossbow, which I think is the worst incarnation of the Crossbow we've had in Call of Duty history. And there are some specialty bolts. There are 3 specialty bolts that make the weapon even better when it comes to getting, hits to kill, not time to kill in this game. So you have the Fury Bolt, which is the explosive tip. This is my favorite out of the 3 bolts, my go-to. I'd recommend using this 90% of the time when you're using the Crossbow. If you hit waist up, it will still be an insta-kill like the regular Crossbow, and it will also do some splash damage once it detonates to possibly kill other people. But if you do hit the legs or the feet, it will stick to the person, you'll wait a beat, and it will kill the enemy on detonation. So as long as you hit a Fury Bolt and connect it with an enemy, you'll always be getting a kill with it. You also get the benefit of splash damage, so you can place these in a corner if you know someone's hiding there, camping there, or if you want to place it in choke. The second bolt we have is the gas bolt, or I believe it's technically called the venom bolt. This bolt is the less appealing out of the 3 in my opinion. What these things do is it will detonate and release some gas. That's the gas from the gas grenades. It will slow enemies down, make them choke, mess with their vision. This is only if the bolt makes contact with a person. Otherwise, it's just a normal bolt. You cannot shoot the Nova Bolt at the ground or at a wall to detonate the gas. It has to make contact with some flesh, which gives it a very niche use. I find it hard to use in close quarters combat because the gas does affect you and mess up with your visibility and your aim. So I find it really only useful in situations where you have multiple enemies that you're fighting, like in objective modes like hardpoint or headquarters. Other than that, I don't see much use for the Venom Bolt, unfortunately. But if you can think of some awesome ways to use it, please let us all know down below in the comments. And last but not least, we have the Thermite Bolt, which is literally the thermite grenade turned into a bolt, which is awesome because the thermite grenades are one of the most versatile and useful grenades in Modern Warfare. When you shoot this bolt, it will explode on impact and burn whether you hit an enemy or not, so you can shoot at the ground or at the chokes just like you can with the explosive bolt. If you hit legs, it's still a kill. But as the Fury Bolt, I would consider like your primary bolt, your go-to if you want to kill a lot of people. The Thermite is more of a utility bolt. You can use it as a primary because you'll always be getting a kill if you connect the bolt, but also you can deny objectives with it, and most importantly, destroy vehicles. The Thermite Bolt is just as deadly as thermites when it comes to taking out vehicles and kill streaks. It will take down a VTOL in 3 shots. It will take down the support streaks like the personal radar, the UAV, the counter UAV in 1 bolt, and you get 9 bolts every respawn to work with. honestly, I think the thermite bolt is quicker and better than some of the launchers in certain situations. So going back to what I mentioned up top, this is more of like a overkill type weapon where you can use it as a secondary or a primary or even both, which is what I would consider the thermite bolt, where you could use it to kill a bunch of people and also whip it out to take down score streaks, cut down chokes, things like that. Another thing that should be known is that all these specialty bolts are non-recoverable. The normal bolts you can run over and pick them back up like a throwing knife, so you can have endless amounts of ammo per life. But if you want more specialty bolts, you'll need to have scavenger, the munitions box, and so on. Moving on to just some general stats and tips, there is some projectile travel delay with the crossbow, so I do recommend you increase the bolt velocity with some attachments to negate this, so that at least in the 6v6 mode you barely have to lead your shot. It will just make the crossbow easier to use overall. It does have a built-in reticle, so I believe non-zoom scopes aren't that necessary. In 6v6 maps, all you have to do is line up the enemy with the end of that needle that's dropping down to hit your shot. The only downsides to the crossbow are that it has very slow handling. The reload speed is excruciatingly slow, which is why I think sleight of hand is a staple, and you'll see that when we get to the class setups. And it has somewhat of a slow aim down sight speed. This can be fixed with attachments. I have a class set up for you that's very snappy, but sometimes you'll be using it with slower aim down sight speeds. And in practice, it's not that much of a drawback because you can pre-aim down sights. That's actually my big crossbow tip for this gameplay, is always pre-ADS with the crossbow. Don't try to be quick scoping with the crossbow. There's no reason to. You have to reload the bow after every shot, so you can aim down sight while you're reloading this bow, make sure you're lining stuff up, and then as soon as you're ready you can peek out and take that next shot. So really the aim down sight speed isn't that much of a drawback. It has decent hip fire actually when you're in close quarters combat, so it's not something that I would worry too much about. The reload speed is more of a pain in the butt compared to the aim down sight speed. And just a general tip before we get into these class setups, the bolt attachments don't count, or at least they don't track well when you're trying to get mounting kills and double kills for the camo challenges. I think it's because there's a little bit of a kill delay when you're using these attachments. So if you are trying to get mounting kills, double kills, I'd recommend going with the no bolt to have the easiest time with those challenges. Now moving on to attachments and class setups. So again, 43 levels to max out this weapon, and a lot of these levels will unlock a variety of different attachments. I feel like half of the attachments for this weapon are optics, and again, I don't think you need any of the non-zoom scopes. If you do want to use a scope, I would recommend use the XRK Rangemaster VZ. This is a unique scope to the crossbow. It's a variable zoom scope and gives you a, I think, 5.6x zoom, which is the most zoom you can get out of all the scopes available. There also is the XRK Mid-Track 4.0 scope, which is also a unique attachment to the crossbow. I would highly recommend avoiding the following attachments when you're making class setups if you decide to stray outside of what I'm about to recommend. The 16-strand cable, I see no situation which you would use that. It decreases your velocity. I avoid it. The XRK Carbon Elite, XRK Precision Grip, and the XRK Talon are all useless attachments. I would not recommend using those. And the tack laser is the last thing I would recommend avoiding. The reason being, again, pre-aiming is important with the crossbow. The tack laser gives away your position and puts you at a disadvantage. The aim down sight speed buff feels nice with the tack laser, but again, I don't think the ADS speed is very necessary with this weapon, and I have a class setup that works with ADS speed increase without using the tack laser. All the attachments I recommend using are in the following 3 class setups. I'm not going to waste your time and go over the good attachments independently. So let's jump in to these 3 class setups to finish up the video. These should cover every scenario you'll find yourself in for any use you want to use the crossbow in. The first one I call the boom bow. This is intended to be used as a primary. It's just an all-around killing machine. The attachments for this are the F-Tac Fury 20 bolt, the explosive tip. You want to pair this with the XRK Thunder 200-pound arms. This increases your damage and your bullet velocity to a point where you don't have to worry about the bullet drop or the travel time. I want to use the FFS Speed Track stock for aim down sight speed increase, and the F-Tech Speed Grip underbarrel for aim down sight speed increase, and a sprint to fire speed increase. And then to wrap it up with that 5th slot, you want to be using sleight of hand. And again, this lets you kind of be aggressive with the crossbow. You can use it as a primary, use it as a secondary even if you want to, but this is what you want to be using to guarantee the most most amount of kills. All you have to do is stick a bolt and you'll be getting a kill, and it's very, very fun to use. For my second class setup, we have what I dub the quick bow. This is intended to be used as a more aggressive primary, although there is a chance you can get hit markers with this because you don't have a specialty bolt. But this also works well as a secondary weapon because it's called the quick bow because it's a bit more snappy with your aim down sight speed and handling, and you can swap to this weapon, quickly aim down sight, and take someone out if need be. So for this class setup, you want to be pairing the XRK Quill 100-pound bolt and the 28 strand cable, and I only recommend you use the 100-pound arm paired with the 28 strand cable for bolt velocity. The 100-pound arm increases your movement speed, I think your aim walking speed, and your aim down sight speed, which is great, makes it feel snappy, but it decreases your bullet velocity. And if you just put this on by itself, the travel time with the projectile is so noticeable, it's hard to use. Don't ever use it without the 28 strand cable because the 28 strand cable increases your bullet velocity and balances out that velocity to be in a usable state. And then the rest of the attachments are similar to the boombox. You want to use the speed track stock and the F-Tech speed grip for even faster aim down sight speed and sprint to fire speed. Again, this thing is super snappy, great to use if you want to be aggressive or as a secondary, and then sleight of hand for that faster reload speed. And then last but not least, we have my Crossbow longbow, which is what I recommend using only in like ground war when you have to go for long shots, those extreme ranges. This setup is a little bit slower, but it gives you the most damage, the most range, the most bolt velocity. You got the 200-pound arm combined with the 28 strand cable, so your velocity is maxed out. Even with the max velocity, you'll see these in the clips, there is bullet drop, so I recommend the XRK Rangemaster VZ so you can get that range and aim easier and use the dots on that scope to line up your shots because you got to compensate for that bullet drop. We also have the F-Tech speed grip to help a little bit with the sprint to fire speed and the aim down sight speed, and then of course sleight of hand in the last slot. And again, this is for extreme range use. If you're using the 6v6, I'd recommend the boom bow setup or the quick bow setup over this. And lastly, with each of these class setups, I would use overkill to get another primary. My go-to has been the MP7. I'm sure you've seen it in some of the gameplay. And then use amped as your third perk slot so you can switch to that primary faster if you get stuck in a sticky situation. So that's my crossbow guide. That's everything I learned about the crossbow over this past weekend. Spent some time with it. Wanted to make sure I shared the best information with you guys as possible. Crossbow is, again, a fun weapon to use. I highly recommend you try it out. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments and I will answer them for you. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button. Consider getting subscribed to turn on the bell notification. Check the links down below in the description to help support the channel. My name's Skater. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.